Hi, my name is Nathan Walters, and we're going to be looking at today James Galt's term paper, The Mismanagement and Failure of the Euro. We're going to start out with a summary of the paper, and then we're going to wrap up with some positive insights on how to make this final paper better. So let's get into the summary. So James starts out making the point that the Euro, since its inception, has brought the European Union together. But as it's being used, it's actually brought the economy down for those member states using it. The euro lacks formal financial institutions to help it maintain itself uh, during this use. And through the leadership of the EU, the citizens have started to care less about politics. And James states that the euro was simply doomed from the start. Yeah, so now to get into the main body of James's paper. So after the collapse of the Bretton Woods system, it left Europe looking for economic answers. Europe stopped looking at the United States, but now turned to each other for strength. This was a productive change of events for the European Union, but it took some wrong steps in the process. From this, the Single European Act, as well as the euro, was born. The euro was hoped to bring the European unions closer together, but as James points out, it actually had the opposite effect. The euro was created in a time where their main focus was on unity and integration, where the focus should have been really on creating proper financial institutions. The goal of the euro was to allow capital and labor to flow freely from the rich countries to those who are in need. But since there were no proper institutions for distribution of wealth, this did not occur. So this actually led to the wealthier nations getting richer and the poorer nations getting poorer. Some of the other problems with the euro were the guidelines of membership. Due to the Maastricht Treaty, some nations like Greece either falsified their numbers or some nations slashed their budgets. This led to the nations needing financial help once they gained membership, and there were no institutions to handle this. A problem that arose with the European central bank is that it was not set up to control interest rates, but it was actually set up to control inflation rates, which was partially political. James then talks about how a single currency can work if ran correctly. The United States works under a single currency because the national government has more power over the states than the European Union does over its member states. The U.S. also uses a tax and transfer system that moves money to where it needs to be through taxing. Where the euro is not like the US dollar because of the language barrier and because of the lack of national pride. For example, Americans do not mind that their tax money from a rich state, such as California, is going to an aid program in a poorer state like Kentucky. Whereas in Europe, it's different. Germany, who's one of the wealthiest European countries, does not understand why their tax money would have to go to a poor country like Greece. And as James also points out, it is harder to move in Europe to advance your financial situation. As opposed to moving from state to state in America, moving in Europe requires that you would change countries, which is just not as practical as moving from state to state. A big part of the European Union's policies not being effective is the lack of communication between the members and the European Council. 60%, 67% of the citizens do not feel informed of what the European Parliament was doing and their actions. And a large portion of them didn't even feel like they needed to care what was going on. And this is leading to the European Union to become less and less democratic. This separation is causing a lack of trust between the citizens and the institutions that are there in place. Because citizens do not feel represented or a part of the government and what's going on, it does not allow for the euro to improve quickly or even move slightly in the proper direction. Yeah, so in conclusion to James's paper, the euro is supposed to be created with the idea that it would bring the nations closer together. This was supposed to unify Europe, but again, it kind of did the opposite. It led to economic downfall and turmoil. Through its lack of thought-out institutions, improper policies, and out-of-touch politicians, it has left the European Union in a pretty bad position. Also, through the using of austerity to aid nations, it has actually left them poorer. The euro did not do its job in unifying Europe and its nations, but left them divided socially and economically. However, this does not mean that that they're doomed forever. They can turn themselves around by putting in place proper financial institutions, and they should also create more flexible exchange rates and some type of tax and transfer system. But if they don't change it up, they could probably run into a financial crisis like the one in 2008. It could happen again. Yeah, so thank you, James, for this well thought out paper. It was very easy to read. It was also very clear from the start what your stance was, that the euro did not actually unify the European Union as it was supposed to. But yeah, it actually left them pretty divided. I like how you did bring in the United States on how a single currency could work. That was a good touch. And I liked how you used the United States as opposed to saying we, as a professor had mentioned when he outlined this paper. So a couple places where you could improve this paper for the final draft. There was just a few places where there were some misspelled words and some punctuation. I'm not really going to get into that. That's not me, but yeah, so just proofread that some more. And I think that you could go into maybe some more on how they can put in, or what institutions they should put in to make their economic stance better. You mentioned at the end, let's see here, that they could put into place some kind of tax and transfer system. So just going in a little bit more about that, that'd be a big part. You could add a couple more paragraphs to your paper on that, and also more on a more flexible exchange rate. I think you could definitely get another page in on what kinds of exchange rates, how they sit now, how that's affecting the euro, because that could go right into your stance with, because the exchange rate is definitely one of the downfalls of the euro. Yeah, so another couple places where you could expand upon would be going into detail on what the Bretton Woods system was, how and when it collapsed, just stuff like that, to maybe, like, get to that page requirement of 15 pages by the end of this paper. Another spot I noticed was you could go into more on, what was this? The Single European Act. You just briefly mentioned it, but again, you could just go in a little bit more about what that is, and I think that would make for a better paper. But yeah, so thank you, James, for this paper. I hope this helps you on my summary and my comments, and I look forward to seeing what you have to say about my paper. So thanks, James.